Let's get some business now. Yuka Roy joins us. The big news, Yuka, of course, Pfizer saying it has developed a vaccine against COVID-19, which is 90% efficient. It clearly could be a game changer if it turns out to be true in this ongoing global pandemic.
Well, it's so early, as you say, but the announcement clearly, Mark, was great news for businesses around the world that were battered by the pandemic-led lockdowns. It is really the first time that we've seen successful data from a large-scale, late-stage clinical trial of a COVID-19 vaccine. So shares of Pfizer, obviously, and its German partner BioNTech jumped on the announcement, with Pfizer leaping 13% at the open and is still up by about 10%. But it's not just those companies that developed the vaccine. The news lifted global stocks on the whole, as it could be, as you said, a game changer or showing a light at the end of the long tunnel. Here in Europe, Paris's CAC 40 rose, finished the day up more than 7.5%, and plane maker Airbus gained about 20%, and Société Générale, the bank, rose 10% despite announcing 640 new job cuts. In the United States, Wall Street indices hit record highs, the Dow surging almost 6% at one point this Monday. Airlines and cruise line operators are trading up 20 to 30%, but other sectors like banks, manufacturing and real estate on the state side are also seeing gains. Oil prices jumped 10%. On the other hand, though, video conferencing apps and food delivery services, those businesses that flourished during lockdowns, plunged on the news, with Zoom, for instance, tumbling 13%. To that end, the tech-heavy Nasdaq is seeing more modest gains compared to the other two, the Dow and the S&P.
And Yuka, the mood already positive in global markets before the announcement over developments in the US presidential race. Tell us more on that.
Well, as it became clear that Joe Biden had won the US election and world leaders lined up to congratulate him, it had a positive impact early on the markets as election uncertainty sort of went away for investors. The Biden-Harris campaign unveiled a transition plan over the weekend and has already started working on their pandemic response with a new task force this Monday. The US president-elect outlined 4 priorities in his plan to deliver on his campaign promises, and economic recovery is one of them. With 11 million Americans out of work, the job crisis is, of course, top of the agenda. He says that his plan is for working American families and promises to make millions of good-paying jobs and make it easier for workers to organize unions. He wants to boost the manufacturing and help small businesses and to, in the end, make the US supply chain less dependent on foreign countries. He says the government will make investments into modernizing infrastructure and into clean energy projects. He also plans to raise salaries for care workers and teachers so that the services could improve. And he also, most importantly, wants to address racial inequality, injustice in the job market as well, to try and close the wealth gap and expand affordable housing for minorities. The Biden administration will, of course, run into resistance in Congress as the Senate will likely remain in Republican control. But that's the global investors are actually welcoming that prospect as that could hinder drastic changes that could add to US public debt.
Is there hope, Yuka, that Biden's victory will in some way turn back the clock on global trade?
Global trade, that's an important aspect for the world. There's certainly hope that the Biden government will patch some of the damage left by the Trump administration. He might try to rejoin, for instance, the Trans-Pacific Partnership free trade agreement that President Trump famously pulled out of. But it will take time. And we'll have to see what really happens and what obstacles there may be. Just this Monday, the EU announced it will impose new tariffs on imports of US goods worth $4 billion. In retaliation to an earlier similar move by the US, this as part of their long-running dispute over subsidies to Boeing and Airbus. And now Brussels says the move, its own move, is regrettable, but blames it on a lack of progress on the US side. The EU Trade Commissioner expressed hope that transatlantic trade ties will improve over time.
Yukaro, the business, thank you
Biden
very
has
much indeed.
stated on several occasions that he is a strong supporter of international alliances, of the multilateral system, and of the improving ties with the EU. So our priority will be a positive and forward-looking agenda, focusing on our bilateral agenda, WTO reform, and trade and climate change.
Yuka with the business, thank you very much indeed.